life throws our way. Many of you, in your own
with a quote from an unknown author. A great leader will deflect credit to his people.
May you rest in peace as a mentor for the teachers and students.
And a resilient man with strong ethics. He how skillful a teacher he was. No matter how patient and how kind he was with us as students, no matter how much energy he put into making us the best readers and writers we could possibly.
We are here, of course, this morning to not only commemorate but also to celebrate the life of Mr. Jai Narayan. Of course, Mehboob Raza has spoken about his achievements as an educationist. I'd like to say a little bit about it. Of course, he came from very humble beginnings from Nandi and won a scholarship to go to Natambua High School. And then, of course, he ended up in India, where he gained his further qualifications and then came back to Fiji. In those days, ladies and gentlemen, of course, it was a big achievement to actually get a degree and to come to a high school and to teach in Fiji. And many people did not have that level of qualification, in particular if you weren't necessarily from a well-off family. And he actually did do that. Last Saturday, I was actually in Nandi Market, walking around the market, and then I met a gentleman who's sitting here in front of me. And so he came up to say hello, and he said, "My name is Jai Narayan." And I said, "Oh, there's another gentleman in Suva." And he said, "Oh, that's my brother, and I'm here to visit him, and he's ill. And unfortunately, he is here again today because the brother has passed on." Ladies and gentlemen, I want to publicly say that the type of, or the caliber of educationist that Mr. Narayan was, actually there's a dearth of those type of educationists in Fiji now. That level of dedication, that level of being able to apply the practical aspects of education and trying to forge new ways, thinking outside the box, as Mehboob Raza highlighted, that many of the teaching techniques he adopted, he looked outside the jurisdiction, he looked outside Fiji to see what would be appropriate for us. And to be able to recalibrate that methodology of teaching and to bring it to Fiji, of course, was very pioneering. And many people, of course, in the system did not necessarily understand that. And that's what we're trying to do now. My personal experience of him was back in 1991. I remember, actually it was in 1990, and there used to be this young boy who used to go around selling vegetables in different offices. And I remember the office that I used to work out of, he used to come there, and I asked him, I said, "Why aren't you in school?" And he said, "Well, I come from a family of 11. He came from a family of 11 from Nasuri." And he said, "I went to the first term of school, but I dropped out because I could not afford the school fees. So I did not go back to school. And this is the third term. And he was in Form 4. So I said, "Which school were you at?" He said, "I was in Indian high school." In those days, of course, Jai Narayan College was known as Indian high school. And so I brought him over, actually, to the office because he was a bright young boy. And I said, "Would you," in fact, before that I said to him, I said, "Would you be able to pass your Form 4 exams if you actually set it?" And he said, "Yes." And the level of confidence with which he said it I said, "Okay, let's see if we can get admitted." I brought him to the school over here, and the person who was dealing with the students refused. They said, "Well, you've actually missed 2 terms of school, and you will actually bring down our pass rate." Those, of course, teachers get obsessed with pass rates. You'll bring down the pass rate, so sorry, you can't be accepted. And so I started arguing with him, and he said, "No, it can't be done. In any case, it's too late because the education office has closed, the names of the people who will actually be sitting for the exams." And then out of his office came Mr. Jai Narayan. So he asked me what was the issue, and I told him. And he looked at the boy and he asked him exactly the same question I asked him: "Will you be able to finish your exams? Or will you be able to do your exams?" He said, "Yes." So he said to me, he said, "Look, why don't you go to the education office, which is up now, the old building, the old Suva Grammar Girls' School." And he said, "Go there and see if they'll accept his application and pay the late fee." So I did go up with this young man and paid the late fee. I think it was something like $30 in those days. It was a big sum, $35 or something. And he sat for his exams and he got all B+. The following year he received a scholarship and he went to Dudley High School, and today he lives in Canada. If Mr. Jai Narayan had not come out of the room to actually accept or allow this boy to actually sit for form for exam, he probably would be still selling vegetables in the streets of Suva. So this is, I'm sure, this is just one of the multiplicity of multiple stories that you probably can tell about him and how he's helped individual people. And this is one of my personal experiences that I had with him. He, of course, ladies and gentlemen, also was in the Higher Education Commission, the Education Commission that was set in the late 1960s. And his contribution to that, of course, changed many things in Fiji. The way that we can honor someone like him is, of course, to continue his legacy. His legacy remains with us. When we changed the names of schools from ethnically driven names to names that weren't ethnically driven, of course, the school board at that time saw it fit to name the college after him, because he was, after all, the person who actually gave life to this institution. So the college will continue with his name. It'll be there till time will end, God willing. However, our best way that we can actually show that we appreciate his legacy, his hard work, his dedication, his energy, and his enthusiasm and his ability to think outside the box is if we actually continue with what he started to do. The fact that today we have free education, etc., allows us the ability to carry on with that legacy. And I'd like to, of course, the other point I'd like to note, which many people perhaps do not appreciate, his wife, Aiyaz Sayed-Khaiyum, was a politician. She was a female politician, of course, starting in the late 1960s. Member of the Legislative Council, and then, of course, being a member of the Parliament after independence. Many men would have found it very difficult to allow women, their wives, in those days as they were seen, to enter public life. Many men feel very insecure because of the patriarchal notions of power relationships. And of course, the fact that he was completely supportive of her in a time and an era when it was not the in thing for women to be in political life. To also have at the same time their own family, their children, but to have a husband that actually was very unassuming, as Mahmoud Raza said, to be quietly supportive of that. And she, of course, rose up within the ranks of the political system in Fiji to become a minister after 1987. To have that level of support at her house by her husband dedicates the very forward-looking thinking of her husband, whose life we are commemorating today. That, I think, is something amiss that people don't generally think about, which we need to also think about and indeed pay a recognition to him for being very forward-looking and having that sort of family approach to allow his wife, in those days it would be allowing your wife to join public life. So I think that's something also that he was very much way ahead of his time. I'd like to take this opportunity to also give our sympathy and condolences to the family members. He, of course, had a number of siblings, and of course his own children and the grandchildren who are here, and the daughter-in-laws and the son-in-laws who are here with us. We'd like to tell you that we are here today not just to commemorate, but indeed celebrate his life. And I think we need to look upon today's occasion as a means of where we celebrate his life, talk about what he did, talk about the legacy that he left behind, and indeed not only today, but in time to come always. Thank you very much.
Ever accurately or fully explained with the
Hare Krishna.